I
Yeah.
mean, I know our followers kind of know, but maybe crossover people. Why don't you start? However, you want to share a little bit about who you are.
Yeah. So I always introduce myself. I'm Kate Johnson. I'm a bi pastor's daughter. And I write about deconstruction, being an eldest daughter, and estrangement and ambiguous grief comes up a lot in my work. I also run the Substack Quips and Confessionals.
Awesome. And I am Lauren Trimper. I live in the Pacific Northwest with my spouse and two kiddos. And I am also a pastor's daughter, which was a
Mhm.
major connecting point for Kate and I when we first started chatting on Instagram. And I would say in the last 10 or 15 years, I have really zoomed out in my life as far as what I believe. And I've always questioned things, and it's been a problem. And I think that there has been a lot of clarity and a lot of data sort of presented to
Mhm.
me in the last 10 years of my life that have helped me have, instead of viewing myself as a problem, viewing myself with compassion and viewing myself as making a lot of sense.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what I would say as an intro to for myself. And I am building the business of the Kindred Space in the last year, and it's super exciting. And I've gotten to meet so many amazing people. So yeah, and connect just like with you, Kate, connecting. And I feel like there are so many things we could have talked about in this live
Yeah.
that
So
like
many.
we're scratching the surface with this. But yeah, I'm excited to jump in.
Yeah, me too. All right, let me just adjust my camera real quick. Oh, sorry. I have this like little thing that I got from
Cute.
my partner. It's like the little
Wait, wait,
thing from
wait.
Hopper.
So cute. I know
Yeah,
I
it's
recognize
like a
him.
little thing from Hopper. So if you just
I
heard
love
that,
it.
that's what it was.
So cute. I love it. I'm sure you'll
Anyway,
hear my dog at some point and probably see my cat too. So
all right. Yeah.
I get it.
All right. So let's dive into it. So what is ambiguous grief?
Yes. Oh, of course, Robin loves hoppers. Robin gets
Yes,
it.
it's so
I
good. It
love
was so funny.
hoppers. What part made you laugh the hardest in that movie?
Oh man, I think it was when they had like the main beavers explaining the pond rules
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
like he's talking about like all the pond rules and there's like all these mice and he's like pushing the little mice in and then their like eyes are bugging out and he's like pushing the
Uh-huh.
like the little horde of mice in.
So
What
good.
about you?
Uh, not to give spoilers for a children's movie, but there is a part about halfway through, all of the squishing stuff, I just can't. It's the funniest freaking thing to
Oh,
me.
it's so funny.
Like, I remember looking at, like, I saw it with my husband and my two kids, and there were several moments in that movie that I just like looked at all of us and I just was like, thank God I have funny kids. Like, you know what I mean? That have like
Yeah.
a sense of humor and are laughing at the right parts, you know?
Mhm.
Like, what's better than that? But yeah, I love that movie. Okay. So,
So good.
ambiguous grief. Why did we want to talk about it, Kate?
Yeah, so I think ambiguous grief is something that I've experienced, you've experienced. I think a lot of
Yep.
people have experienced, but they might not have the terminology about it.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think a lot of the times when we think about grief, we like if you go to the bookstore right now, a lot of the books there, like 99.9% of them are going to be grief after death.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but there's
Yep.
also a lot of other types of grief that we experience, and that's where ambiguous grief comes in. So when I was dealing particularly with, um and we'll go probably a little bit into this later, but, like, when I was dealing with grief from trauma, grief from
Mhm.
estrangement, like,
Mhm.
it was really confusing because I was like, "Do I even need to grieve this? Like, there's no
Mhm.
death that's
Mhm.
happened, like, there's no
Mhm.
real end to this." So I didn't even
Mhm.
know I needed to grieve, but
Yeah.
having that term ambiguous grief was really important for me. So, definition, it's an open-ended grief without a resolution. There's no
Mhm.
funeral to mark the end, no body, to mark, like, the hopes for what you thought the relationship could have been or the community, or your identity. There's nothing concrete, there's no tombstone or funeral, that
Mhm.
can validate that sense of loss. So you
Mm.
really have to validate that sense of loss on your own.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing about ambiguous grief is that hope, because you always have
Mm.
that hope of like what could have been, and it's moving
Yeah.
to one type of hope to a different type of hope, which we'll get into later.
Mhm. I know I always say this word wrong. Is it Reiki or Reiki?
Yeah, I am
Reiki?
a Reiki practitioner.
Okay. I feel like I've been talking about this a lot in the last year where my grief seems to live is in my throat.
That makes sense.
And I'm curious as, someone who has studied it's Reiki, right?
Yeah.
Did I say right? Okay. Every time I'm like, is it? Uh, could you tell me why that might be?
That's a good question. I think a lot of the times the things with our throat have to do with our voice.
Uh-huh.
It could be like sadness over how our voice is suppressed. I find
Mm.
it's funny, I've been dealing with a lot of grief in my life recently, and I was doing
Uh-huh.
like a Reiki meditation earlier, and there was a lot in my throat where I felt like I had to hold back different emotions to feel strong around something.
Yep.
Where I couldn't quite speak my truth about something,
Mhm.
where there was just some sadness and grief, that was still living in that area, and I think it's really our
Yeah.
voice, right? Like, we hold a lot of grief, and sometimes we hold back our voice wanting to say strong for people, so it does show up a lot there. Another place it shows up a lot.
He doesn't want any attention, you guys. Sorry.
Such a
This is so
deprived dog.
pitiful. My God. Okay, keep going. I'm listening.
Yeah, so another place it shows up a lot is in the heart. And then another
Yeah.
big place that it shows up for me in particular is like the solar plexus area, which is like the part right above the belly button.
Okay.
There's a lot of like rib pain and stuff
Mm,
there that I deal with.
that's
Another
interesting.
important thing about the heart area is in traditional Chinese medicine, like grief often lives in like the right shoulder. That's often the first place that you'll feel it is the right shoulder blade.
Whoa.
Yeah. It really blew my mind when I
Whoa.
yeah.
I also am thinking through, like, as I was saying, the thing about grief living in my throat,
Mhm.
and then I have like tons of thyroid
Yeah.
stuff
No,
where I'm
it
like,
is
of course
super
I do.
common in
Of
women, like,
course
the
I do.
women that I work
Yeah.
on, like, the throat is a very common place.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Sorry. Didn't mean to derail the definition. Let's keep going.
Robin says, "Your dog, what is personal space? It's with
Oh my
me."
gosh. For real, you guys. Like, this is why I've become a cat person. No offense to everybody. I love dogs too, but my God, what I have to give to this dog.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
The baby.
Jeez. Yeah. Okay. So ambiguous grief is like an open-ended grief that doesn't have to deal with someone passing. Would you say
Yeah,
that that's a fair
exactly. Yeah,
definition?
and it can cover all sorts of things, like, it can be a relationship with someone, it can be your identity, it can be a community
Mhm.
you lost, a faith that you lost, like,
Mhm.
it can encompass trauma, like, it can encompass, like,
Yeah.
multiple things.
Yeah.
I think the problem that we face is that there's not always a clear roadmap. Like, there's tons of books written about grief, for, like, death, but there's
Yep.
not a ton written about ambiguous grief, and I think that's where we get into,
Mhm.
like, there's no clear roadmap because there's not, like, a funeral that we go to.
Well, and we've touched on this in our conversations, but I think that our society doesn't attach value or meaning to
Yeah,
like having ceremony or um like grieving within community.
yeah.
It's like I find that the grief conversation is really attached to shame.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
especially
go do
with
that in your
ambiguous
own
grief.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Um, I know that you've mentioned, is it Soul Work, the book that you love?
Yeah, so there's a book called Soul Broken.
Soul Broken.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, excellent book. And it actually has, like, a roadmap that lays out
Okay.
about it.
That we're gonna talk through in a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
bit.
and we'll talk
Yeah,
about that, a little bit
my
later.
favorite book on grief is The Wild Edge of Sorrow by Frances Weller, and it
Yeah.
really talks about the community expression of grief and
Mhm.
how we find ways to process it together safely,
Yeah.
because not only, like, are we not processing privately
Mhm.
or knowing what even counts as grief, right? I
Yeah.
think, like, 5 layers beyond that is, like, we need to grieve together for things that have been
Mhm.
lost, you
Yeah, and
know?
grief can be so isolating, like, it really causes you to
Yes.
isolate from people, and, like, there's something to be said for, like, you need some alone time around that stuff, but I
Mhm.
I find that, like, we're so edgy around grief, like, we aren't sure how to, like, deal with it, like, it's very uncomfortable when other people are
Yeah.
dealing with it, like, "I'm sorry for
Yes.
your loss," doesn't quite cover it.
Right. Or everything happens for a reason, let's shove it down.
Yeah.
Like, like, people need us to be convenient,
Mhm.
And, I think that grief flops out of all the edges, and,
Yeah,
like, it doesn't fit into a nice little box,
it doesn't.
and, that doesn't really fit into jobs and productivity and
Mhm.
all of those kinds of things, right? And so, I think because of the inconvenience of grief, we barely get to grieve the big death moments, much less these more subtle things. Like, we
Yeah.
just weren't taught we could.
Yeah. Yeah, we weren't taught that we could, and, like, we don't like, we have, like, bereavement leave for, like, a death, but when it comes to bereavement for
Yeah,
other types of grief, like, and we'll talk about examples of what it could encompass, like, we don't really have the built-in things in our society, but they're just as much of a grief.
for sure. For sure. Okay, do you want to hop into our examples?
Yeah, so a few examples of what ambiguous grief could be for you, and feel free to pop these into the chat if any of these
Mm,
resonate for you, if you wanna share. Um, a parent that you could be low contact or no contact, or maybe you're dealing with full contact still, but you're just grieving, the person that you wish that they could be.
mm.
It can also be like a parent with dementia or illness,
That's
or
such a
other
good
things
point.
like that, that you're
Yeah.
grieving of that loss of that person that you knew. It could
Yeah.
be loss of relationships due to addiction or abuse. It could be a marriage. It
Mhm,
could be a faith that you had.
mhm.
I think religious trauma really follows under this category because for a lot of
Yeah,
us, the church that we grew up with was we thought it was such a safe and lovely place, and for many of us, it was, and then something changed, and it suddenly wasn't safe for us anymore.
yeah.
Um, it could be that loss of community that you had. It
Mhm,
could be a dream for how your life would turn out. Maybe things didn't turn out the way you wanted because of
mhm.
you were going through fertility or chronic illness or anything,
Yeah.
any sort of illness or disease. I think also the pandemic. I think that's a big state of ambiguous grief of so
Mhm.
many of us experience different kinds of griefs of like things that we missed in our lives during that
For
point.
sure.
Um,
I
that's a
think
grief that we never processed.
that is such a great example of
Mhm.
collective unprocessed
Yeah,
grief.
unprocessed collective grief.
Like,
And not
just
always through death.
yeah.
It was for a variety of things.
Yeah, I mean, truly, like, anyone that works with children or has children,
Yeah.
what we are seeing from the fallout of the pandemic, and not just it's so complex and
Mhm.
layered how we are seeing it show up in kids. And I think it's really important to know that ambiguous grief can show up as bad behavior,
Yeah, for sure.
you know?
Especially in kids.
I mean, like, the behavior extremes that are being seen in schools and homes and families are really intense.
Mhm.
And I think that kids subconsciously process that ambiguous grief. I
Mhm.
think we shut it down
Yeah.
And I think that kids know when something is stuck, whether an
Mhm.
energy or a feeling. And I feel that with kids, it comes out more readily, that
Yeah.
ambiguous grief. And I think that's what we're seeing in a lot
Yeah.
of classrooms and homes, and where, it's a longer conversation, but I think in general, the pandemic made it so many of us could no longer mask what we
Yeah.
were holding
For sure.
back. And I think we see
Mhm.
that a lot with kids too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's definitely something that we're all currently processing right now, and, like you said, like, when it doesn't get processed, it's gotta go somewhere.
Yeah.
I think that
Yep.
we're seeing that a lot.
Yeah. And I think for us, we hold that pressure, and kids, to their benefit, I feel,
Mhm.
in a lot of ways, can't hold that pressure in. And so
Yeah.
it comes out in these big externalizing behaviors. But yeah, the pandemic, gosh, is so huge. One thing I wanted to speak to as well, talking about the fertility and kids piece, is even though miscarriage is kind of more of the traditional idea of grief,
Mhm.
I really find that miscarriage, in my experience, really does fit more into the ambiguous grief category,
Mhm.
because people don't know what to do with it. They
Yeah.
don't know. There is no ceremony. There is no sort of moment to process. It's not really talked about because women are expected not to speak about their pregnancies in the first trimester, which is when the majority of miscarriages happen. And I think there is something physiologically to the experience of holding death inside your body.
Yeah.
That's so real.
Mhm.
And nobody teaches you about that.
Mhm. Yeah, and then
Nobody
you
teaches you
have
about it.
to, like, also grieve all those hopes for what you hoped would have been and all those sorts of
Mhm.
things as well, so
Mhm.
I think it definitely, like, straddles that line between, like, grief through death
Yes,
and ambiguous grief.
for sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
and the last one I had is just, like, an identity that you had, so maybe you were cast into a role as a kid, whether it was the golden child or the second parent or the good
Yes.
girl or the caretaker or the strong one or the people pleaser.
Yep.
For some people, it's the person that they were before chronic illness or disease took over their life.
Mm.
Maybe it's for a past person that you have of a past political affiliation that you held.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but all that to say, like, it shows up in a variety of ways.
Mhm. You guys that are with us here live, do any of those stick out to you as something that you are experiencing? And if not, if none of the examples, please share, if you feel safe to do so, what you would say you're experiencing as sort of this mysterious, less obvious way of grieving. So, Kate, what would you say is Jesus? Just get, go get your ball pen.
You
This
gave
is
that cold
so,
words.
my God. This is, you guys, you're getting the real show here.
Yeah.
Why would you say, Kate, that it's important to address ambiguous grief and not just let it fester?
Yeah, so similar to what we were talking about before, when you don't process that grief, it's gotta go somewhere. Oh,
Mm,
Kendrick just came in with a comment, divorce, that
mm,
is definitely a big one,
yeah.
that comes up a lot.
Yep. I think, when I think about ambiguous grief, like Kendra shared, I think a lot about expectation
Mhm.
of the future, and I think a lot about change, even good change, like,
Yeah.
even like moving to a house that you love. There
Mhm.
is grief around what your life looked like before,
Yeah.
right? And so I think that grief is such an important distinction to make, that there's a grief in change, even if it looks like good change from the outside. Does
Yeah.
that make
No,
sense?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, going through estrangement was one of the hardest things that I've ever done, it was
Mhm.
ultimately a good thing in my life, and my life is much better for it.
Mhm.
But the actual, like, event itself was really hard. So I think
Yeah.
that's definitely true.
Yeah, I like the estrangement in my life with my parents is so tender still.
Yeah,
Like, I'm not at the bruise stage yet. I'm at the, like, open wound stage
yeah,
where it's sort of just like it is present. It is taking up a lot of my body's energy
mhm,
to kinda go to that wound and try to heal,
yeah,
but yeah, I don't even know what to say about it at this stage.
yeah.
It's,
I think
one
it
of
takes
those
a good
things.
2 years to process it, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, when you're experiencing such a big loss like that, I think
Yep.
it takes at least 2 years. Like, the first year, you're just getting, like, some of the thing I
Yeah.
think it takes at least 2 years to fully get through it.
Well, and I think it's interesting because if my parents were on this live, they would say, "We aren't estranged."
Mhm. Yeah, it was really funny.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, like, having that lack of shared reality makes you
yeah,
question yourself
validating
in
it
it.
yourself.
Yep, and I think that's something when there's a lack of shared reality, it feels like, "Well, why would I be grieving?" Because they don't even agree with my version of what's happening.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I'm looking at what Robin said. Gosh, the medical grief,
yeah,
the
so true.
medical gaslighting. Yes. Like, and I think in the mix, in the stew somewhere is also just health anxiety in general.
Mhm.
Like trying to because I think ambiguous grief leads to all these physical symptoms that feel really scary
Yeah.
and like panic. And then we go and we say, here are, I'm laying out all of these things I'm experiencing. And we go and the doctor that feels so scary to go to, for me anyway. Um, and we're gaslit, like Robin said,
Mhm.
like where we think about just the example from the beginning, Kate, where like I'm talking about me feeling grief in my throat. And I went to the doctor for years and I was told that I was just an anxious mom
Mhm.
and I was prescribed medications for anxiety, which I did need,
Yeah.
but it also felt like sort of hush hush.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then eventually all of these other diagnoses have come down the pike where it feels like not only is there not space for our voice, right? Like
Mhm.
our voice has been taken away, like Ariel and the Little Mermaid. We don't have our voice, right?
Yeah.
Not only that, we're then reaping the direct results of our voice being taken away. And we go and we say, here are all the things that are showing up in my body. And it's like doubled, tripled, quadrupled down,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So, like, why? I think there's a piece of all of this conversation of like women not being believed,
No, absolutely, and I think
you
just
know?
validating yourself, I think that's a huge part of ambiguous grief 'cause especially as I was, like I was coming out of a narcissistic abuse situation,
Yeah.
which was a lot they call it the fog. It's fear, obligation, and
Mm.
guilt, and
Oh,
the
okay.
thing with narcissistic abuse in particular is that it constantly makes you feel invalidated about everything,
Mm.
and
Mhm.
there's a lot of minimization and gaslighting that just makes you, like, doubt your entire reality,
Mhm.
and so a huge part of for me, for the ambiguous grief was just validating how I felt and how my body was feeling, and I think,
Yeah.
and we'll get a little bit into this later, but there's such an embodiment piece of it because what really led me
Yeah.
to exploring even realizing that I needed to do,
Yeah.
the ambiguous grief work, was I was starting to experience all these mysterious health issues, and, like, I go
Yeah.
to doctor, and they didn't have an explanation for them,
Right.
and I eventually realized that, it was all coming from
Go get
grief,
your toy. Yes.
and it started when I really spent time. like doing embodiment work and
Yep.
really reconnecting to my body and doing journaling and doing those sorts of things that I've realized how much like emotions I hadn't expressed in my body and how much grief was still there and how much grief work
Mm,
that I needed to do. Um,
mhm.
which eventually made led me to the choice of estrangement.
Mm,
But and then that was a really difficult decision, but it first came through reconnecting to my body because I think when
yeah.
we feel so unsafe because we're experiencing
Yeah.
whatever the activating event is, whether it's divorce, whether it's trauma, whether it's like years in survival mode, for
Yeah.
various reasons, we feel so unsafe, so we aren't able to access those emotions of things like
Yeah.
grief.
Yeah.
That comes once our bodies are able to feel safe enough to let go and process because it's got to get out somewhere.
For sure. And I mean, I very much relate to that. I think that the idea of ambiguous grief, like, if you still are living in a situation where you feel like you're running from a bear, you're in that fight or flight
Mhm.
state, you are not yet safe enough to grieve.
Yeah,
So I think there's also something to be said for that delayed grief,
yeah,
where it might feel ambiguous to you. It might feel like I had a miscarriage 2 years ago, and just now I am bottoming out,
yeah,
right? Or like whatever it might be, an event that seems like I've processed it, I'm over it. And I think that's something we don't talk about too
mhm,
is there has to be a certain level of safety to even access grief.
yeah, and like, full disclosure, like, the activating event that came with my parent happened 5 years before. It took me 5 years for my body to feel safe enough to actually start going through
Mm.
the grief.
That's
Um,
really helpful to
yeah,
understand and hear. Um, yeah. I mean, mine, I we've touched on this some, but like I feel like my situation with my nuclear, well, not nuclear family, my family of origin, um, I feel like I'm coming out of the fog a little bit,
mhm,
but not a lot. It still feels pretty confusing to
yeah,
me.
mhm,
Um, and so giving myself time to sort it out
yeah,
feels like a nice layer of compassion that I don't have to
yeah,
have it all figured out or know exactly what to say about it. It's really raw and I'm really in it.
yeah,
Um, and it's not neat and tidy, and that's
yeah,
okay.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
absolutely okay. Like, it's grief is not neat and tidy. There's no right way
No.
to grieve.
Right.
Um,
And, I think it's complicated with so many of us going through this estrangement process. Like,
mhm,
wherever we are in that process, there is this sort of like idea of airing dirty laundry,
yeah,
especially coming from church environments where that's not okay,
mhm,
to let the family image, that mask slip, you know,
mhm.
of like who our family is and um oh my god, how we present. Here, Fred, look, get your toy. Go get your toy, please. Okay.
So
This
sweet.
live is not about you, Fred. My God. Um, yeah, I think there's just a lot to that of like still feeling like I have to project a certain image.
Yeah, for sure.
And as much as I want to not be that way,
Yeah,
it's a real thing.
yeah.
Okay, I'm going to my kitchen table. Hold please. I can't I can't be on the floor with him. He's a problem.
Mine would do the
Yeah,
exact same thing.
yeah. I Floor is like, you are mine. I take full ownership. Okay. All right, what do we have next on here?
Yeah, so I think we were gonna talk about a few symptoms of the ambiguous grief. So it
Yeah.
can show up as Mysterious health issues like mine did. Um,
Mine too, for sure.
yeah, lack of energy, fatigue, headaches, upset stomach, some like IBS issues,
Yeah.
digestive issues. For me, like one that showed up was SIBO. Um,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I'm familiar. Yeah.
Um, yeah, it can be excessive sleeping, difficulty sleeping,
Mhm.
overworking, excessive activity, trying to like really
Yeah.
cover that up with overworking.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, it can be emotional symptoms like distraction,
Yeah.
inability to concentrate, depression, and it can also just be anger. I think anger and grief are so intertwined.
Yeah.
In both the in the Reiki practice, like
Mhm.
anger and that grief, like both live very much in the solar plexus. They're very intertwined.
Mm.
Um,
Mhm.
yeah, and then also like there can be some spiritual things as well, like being angry at God, like,
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
angry at your faith community,
Uh-huh.
and you can either strengthen your faith during that time or question your faith, like, there's a lot of
Mhm.
variance of that as well.
Do you feel like unprocessed grief is sort of a pipeline to deconstruction?
Oh, that's a good question. I think deconstruction is part of the process of grief, honestly. I think that whole this
Yeah.
whole thing that we call deconstruction is grieving.
For
Um,
sure. For
yeah.
sure. I mean, I think yeah, I think we can call deconstruction ambiguous grief, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
deconstruction is 100% ambiguous grief, and
Yeah.
this is an interesting part of my deconstruction journey. So,
Mhm.
my deconstruction just probably started before before then, with a few activating events, but, like,
Mhm.
when I started the process that I came to know later as deconstruction, it was probably when I picked up my first book by Rachel Howard Evans.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
her.
I love her.
Yeah.
I miss her daily.
I
Um,
know.
yeah, there's a grief. Um,
Yeah, for
but the
real.
but yeah, so I think going through that process and for a long time, I really intellectualized that
Mm.
that part of, like, the deconstruction journey where it was a lot of reading books and then processing
Mhm.
what I learned from the books. What
Like,
I
tell me more about that. Like, what books were you seeking out at that time?
Yeah, so a lot of the books, were books that helped me understand the own experience of what I was going through. So a lot
Mm.
of books by Rachel Howard Evans, Nadia Bolz-Weber,
Mhm.
um, quite a few about like trauma. My first one I picked up was The Body Keeps Score.
Yeah,
There's that
yep.
book Boundaries, and
Uh-huh.
several others that came up over the years. Um,
Mhm.
some I would recommend more than others.
Yep.
But and there's been some newer books that have also come out since then. Pure was also a big one
Mm.
that totally changed, my understanding of purity culture.
Mm.
Um, but those were all to help me understand things intellectually and give me the language, and those were a really important
Yeah.
part of giving
Yep.
me language to understand what I was dealing with. But
Mhm.
the actual, like but grief doesn't work that way. You can
Yeah.
intellectualize those emotions, but those emotions still have to come out. So you
So,
have to
okay,
feel your feelings.
I'm curious about something because
Yeah.
as I heard you saying all of that, I relate
Mhm.
in the aspect of being in the data gathering stage
Yeah.
of just I need to understand my life experience.
Yeah, you gotta have the vocabulary around it.
Yes, and I think in my mind that time for me was me pursuing personal growth.
Mhm.
And I think that is an interesting reframe to say, what if personal growth, this multi-million dollar industry,
Mhm.
is a version of grief? That I'm not
Yeah.
what I things aren't how I thought they would be. How can I shift my own self and my expectations and my habits and all these things when really that feels like exactly what we're talking about?
No, I think you're onto something there, actually. Like, like, I'll give you an example, like,
Yeah.
I was a planner girly, like, I planned
Yeah.
out every minute of my day, I had my habit
Mhm.
tracker, I was, like, doing all the things, and those were all personal growth stuff, like, I wanted to read,
Yeah.
like, a books I wanted to read, like, a personal growth book a week, like, I had all these
Mhm.
goals, and they kept me so busy,
Yeah.
and but really they were just, like, running away from actually feeling the feelings. What I needed to do was rest and feel the feelings. Uh, and, like, reading those books gave me the vocabulary, but the whole, like, personal growth, self-help industry is often, especially during that time when we were, like, in boss babe era, it's so, like,
Side hustles.
yeah, it's so, like, hustle culture kinda stuff, and really what you need during grief time is just to rest. Like,
Can
it's
we
a
talk about something for a second?
yeah.
Do you remember this is, can I be mean for a sec moment? Which if anyone says that to me, I'm like, everybody shut up. Yes, I want to hear whatever it is. Um, I remember, my God, being a new mom with like a 3-year old and a 0-year old, having just moved into this house. And that was when hustle culture, side hustle, boss babe, girl, wash your face.
Yeah.
Remember? Do you remember?
Yeah.
I'm not going to name names, but you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And there was I mean, that entire book messed me up so bad.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, what I should be doing right now to solve my life is to have sex with my husband every day for a month. That's what I
Oh my
should be
gosh.
doing. That's an entire chapter, Kate.
Sounds exhausting.
I'm like, what? Little baby new mom being like, okay, I should be doing check, 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 check.
Yeah.
Like when there is something really to that, like we didn't even write this in our notes, but like I like that it's coming up in the conversation because as a neurodivergent person,
Mhm.
I have longed to be a planner girly. I have
Yeah.
longed to be someone who could check those boxes, and I never could.
Mhm.
And there is a grief in that
Yeah. And I think
of
there's also
like,
something to be said as also a neurodivergent person, like, I think there's also, like, we want some structure around things, like, I am both someone
yeah.
who has survived trauma and also a neurodivergent person, and we want some structure around things.
And you want to like have something that's predictable
Yeah, for sure.
and that can fit into that box
Yeah.
because we've had so much that flops over the side,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's something to be said to that, and just, like, yeah, just getting to that point where, like, my body reached the point that it had to rest, and that's when the
Yep.
grief was able to be processed, but my body had to get to
Mhm.
that point first.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, there are various different types of grief reactions,
Yeah.
yeah, and
It's super
everything there.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I like the idea of, I feel like this is something people say a lot, but in this topic around ambiguous grief and talking about how anger and grief are so
mhm,
intertwined, the idea of anger being the secondary emotion, and in
mhm,
this situation, grief being that primary, that I think
yeah,
that grief really gets ignored.
yeah,
And we look at anger and say, like, why are you so aggressive? We look at the externalization of grief as anger and want to do away with the anger without looking at the root.
yeah, and I think
You
it
know?
happens the opposite way as well,
Interesting. Okay.
because I was a Christian good girl, like,
Yeah.
I wanted to be a peacemaker, like, I kept my
Hmm.
anger down,
Mm.
so I started experiencing the grief, and then the anger came later, and
Mm.
the anger was just as an
Interesting.
important part of the grief part, so I think it happens either way.
For sure. I can
Yeah,
totally see that. Yeah. I wanted to follow the rules to an extent,
mhm,
but when I would get home, that mask would fall off and it would be like I was so angry from
yeah,
an early age of just like not being heard or respected,
Yeah. No,
you
that's
know?
so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kendra had a
Yeah, it's
really good
interesting to look back.
comment in the chat. What I find
I'm
with
grabbing a
religious
tissue.
trauma is that people don't feel connected to the container of self to hold their grief, so it gets externalized, and often that's intellectualizing. I think that's 100% true, Kendra. Like, that is my experience for sure. Um,
I need to reread that.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, what I find with religious trauma is that people don't feel connected to the container of self to hold their grief, so it
Mm.
gets externalized, often to intellectualizing.
I wonder if that is a die to self moment.
Yeah,
Do you
no,
know what I
I
mean?
think
As
it
far as
is.
like, yeah.
Yeah, T. Levings in her book I Belong to Me, just to plug that real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, she has a fantastic chapter where she talks about the different stages of growing up evangelical and
Mm-hmm.
how they can often take over the process of like normal identity formation so
Yeah.
that you
Yeah.
can so that you don't always like form that identity in like the normal human way because it kind of hijacks
Right.
it.
I
Um,
just wrote a post about that today. Actually, I've been doing a lot of reading around because my expertise is child development and like
yeah.
early childhood stuff, and then mix in the neuroscience piece. Um, but just around what high control religion does
Mhm.
to child development
Yeah.
and identity formation. And yeah, it's real. It's like a
Yeah, it's so
real,
real.
like a hijack is a very astute way of saying it
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
we talked about that validation piece, right? Like,
Hmm.
first you have to trust that the event itself happened,
Mm.
and
Hmm.
validate that for yourself,
Right.
and you have to have a strong sense of self in order to do that. So, like, a big thing that kept me from processing that grief for a long time was developing that strong sense of self and
Hmm.
self-esteem,
Yep.
and I think, ooh, Robin said something good,
Ooh.
yeah,
Robin always coming in hot with the good comments. I
yeah.
don't know anything about that. Do you, Kate?
I do.
Oh,
Uh,
of course you do.
yeah, let me finish the thought
Okay.
about
Yes.
the sense of self. So,
Yep.
you have to have a strong sense of self, so it took me years to develop that, and then once my body had a strong enough sense of self that it could validate that, then I was able to go through, the grief,
Hmm.
of that, but that's definitely real. And what Robin said, yes, I have experienced cord cutting, and I think a big part of ambiguous grief that a big part of connecting to my emotions and really validating my emotions was reconnecting to my body, through embodiment somatic practices, that sort of thing. And I did do a cord cutting meditation. You can find a variety on YouTube, um, of just imagining like chords from different people in my life who had had an impact of me, that I still felt connected to in doing that. So I found it to be very helpful.
When we say chord, are we talking like a
Like
like?
energetic chords.
Okay, I was like, I mean, I have no problem with woo woo as far as like, are we talking like umbilical cord
No.
cutting?
No, yeah, so
I mean, listen, I'm
there's a
into it.
concept in Reiki and other various practices of the idea
Cool.
of, when we have relationships with people, we can
Uh-huh.
develop cords or attachments to people.
Hmm.
I think another way that's like the more scientific way would be like I think trauma bonds would fall into that category
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
connections that we develop with people that are often unhealthy,
Hmm.
and cutting those cords, with the idea that they might be, sapping energy from our life,
Yeah. Yeah.
and being
Yeah.
able to cut that and reclaiming our energy for ourselves.
Need to dig into that, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
That might be another live.
Yeah. I'm game. Yeah. All
Yeah, but
right.
I'm familiar with that concept, but it was very helpful for me.
Very cool. All right. What do we have next here?
Yeah, so I think we're talking about the ambiguous grief roadmap.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah. So this is based on the book Soul Broken by Stephanie Sarazan. and fantastic book, if anyone wants to get it, it's a great roadmap through ambiguous grief.
Mm,
So she does some really important things, and there's a few that I added from my own experience.
love.
Um, but yeah, so we'll dive right into it.
Okay.
So the first step of the roadmap is naming the person, the thing, that you're grieving.
Mm,
So if anyone wants to pop that into the chat, don't feel like you have to, but if you're comfortable, feel free to pop that person or thing that you're feeling that you're identifying. Um, the second one is naming the activating event.
mhm,
And she has a sentence there where you basically state what you're grieving. So it's like,
mm,
I am grieving insert thing here because of activating event.
mm.
So that was really helpful piece of validation just to even write that sentence down.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of something specific. Yeah, that it's interesting, like, what if the grief feels so big and like a mixed up soup, how could we help people tease apart something they might not even recognize, like, as grief?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think journaling
Just
really
something to sit
helps.
with, yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah, I think just journaling, like you might be like, I can't even like think of like what it is.
Mhm,
Like I found just like journaling all the things that I was grieving, whether it was a person, whether it was a thing, whether it was something that
mhm,
happened, just listing them.
mhm,
And then if I could remember the activating event, listing that as well. So
mhm.
you can create multiple sentences if that helps. But being I think just journaling them, like, it activates something in your brain that, like, makes your memory, like, remember things that it may have repressed.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a good one in my brain now.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so after you do that, we're gonna introduce the 2 types of hope. So
Mhm,
I think a lot of us, when we're dealing with ambiguous grief, the thing that makes it feel like so prolonged, because the reason why we grieve something is because we had love for it, right?
mhm.
And there's so much in that.
That makes me, like, emotional even
Yeah,
sitting
no, it
with that.
does. Yeah, there's so
Really, like,
yeah,
I think that's an important thing
yeah.
to really sit with.
Mhm.
That, like, there was beauty
Mhm.
at one point,
Yeah,
you know? And sitting with that and letting yourself feel that love still,
yeah. No, that
you know?
it's so important to feel like that love, and it may be complicated. Like the person might have hurt you greatly, but even if they hurt you and you can't have a relationship with them, like there was a point in time when you probably shared love for that person.
Yeah,
Um, and for most of us, and that's what makes grief hurt so much and makes it so hard to let go. And
I feel
that's
it.
why we have hope, right? Like hope keeps us from falling into despair.
Mhm,
And it's such an important thing. So, but I think what a lot of us get stuck on is the 2 types of hope. So I
mhm,
think what a lot of us get stuck on is a thing called external hope, which
mhm,
is kind of the idea of like maybe like they can change. Maybe we can make this better together.
mm.
Maybe this things will work out this time. If
Yeah.
we do it through like these things.
It's kinda like
Yeah.
back to the personal growth idea.
Yeah, personal growth,
If
like I'll
I
give
do
them
all
another
these things,
chance. Like
yeah, or if they do all these things and change their habits and whatever, yeah.
yeah, and I think there's something to be said, like if like, the way that I heard it as I was going through, like, my deconstruction, the narcissistic abuse things, not to say everyone is
Mhm.
a narcissist, but I think it's how
Right.
if they do it once, it's an accident. If they do it twice, it's information. If they do it 3 times, it's a pattern.
Mm.
Um, and and at that point, they've had plenty of chances to do it.
Mhm.
And that excludes, like if it's like a physical abuse situation, like, please take care of yourself, please call a hotline. But, like,
Right.
there but, like, for most of us who might be dealing with, like, I don't know, various points of grief, whether it's with the church, whether it's with, like, a boyfriend, whether,
Right.
like, that sort of thing, like, that like, you can for, like, normal situations, like, it makes sense to try to give that person another chance,
Mhm.
but if it keeps on continuing, then that's when we
Yeah,
have to start questioning things.
for
Or if
sure.
there's no meaningful improvements or that sort of thing. So, it is
Yeah.
a tricky situation, so what I
Mhm.
say is I have compassion for
Yes.
all of us
Yes.
who are
Mhm.
or have been, like, in that state of external hope that maybe things, will change. Um,
Yes.
I think the main thing is balance. So if
Mhm.
we're, like, relying too heavily on that external lens of, like, "Oh, maybe they will change," without, like, any effort being made on their end,
Yeah.
um, then we feel powerless, when they fail to deliver on our expectations.
Yeah. And I think to me, I really began to process the idea of this external hope last year,
Yeah.
and like understanding that I was going back to something knowing I was going to be hurt
Mhm.
again.
Yeah.
And it's like, at what point do I let the scab actually heal
Yeah.
instead of ripping it back off by hoping it's going to be different?
Yeah. And that's the hardest thing, especially with, like, people you love, because like, once it happens, like like, it happens once, like, maybe things can be better, but when it's a pattern, like, that's when things need to shift, whether or not you just like and this has nothing to do with, like, deciding whether or not you're no contact or low contact or
Right.
that sort of thing. It's just whether or not you're grieving what you thought that relationship could be. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's when we move to internal hope, and it's what can we do in our own lives that can give like, what can I do to make this better? Not trying to change the other person, but what can I change
Mhm.
in myself, um, to go
Mhm.
through those emotions of grief in
Mhm.
order to, change myself so I can have a healthier relationship with this situation while not changing the other person, if that makes sense.
Mhm. It does. It
Yeah.
does, yeah.
Yeah, so I think once we get to that state and this is like an up like, you will go from, like, internal hope to external hope to internal hope, like, it is a roller coaster.
Yes.
But
A
eventually you wanna get
very
to that mainly
yeah.
internal hope. Like,
Yeah,
really
like
grief is not linear.
trending toward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
trending towards internal hope, like,
Yes.
especially if you're coming out of, like, a relationship that has, like, a lot of trauma bond stuff going on where you're coming out of that fear, obligation, guilt fog. Like, there's
Mhm.
going to be a lot of, like, internal hope, internal hope, external hope,
Yeah.
during that time,
Gosh, I
and that's
relate. Yep.
completely normal.
Yep.
So after that, I think it one thing that was really important for me because especially growing up, in a religious environment, where often when someone wronged you, there was an immediate push for forgiveness, to kind of absolve the, person who committed the wrong towards you,
Yeah.
um, of it, and it was always framed as if you had if you like, the person would ask for forgiveness, they were absolved of the situation, but then you as the victim of the situation had to forgive, otherwise you would be corrupted by the forces of having anger stuck
Yeah.
in your heart.
You were the expectation was to absorb,
Yeah. Yeah,
like,
and there was no time
the
to process
wrongdoing.
usually,
Right.
like, what had
Right.
happened, and
Mhm.
that's what we call spiritual bypassing.
Mhm.
And that is a very real thing in churches where we that whole grief process of grieving what happened to you and going through those emotions, which are very normal emotions,
Mhm.
um, it's totally bypassed in that situation.
So, let's talk about that for a second
Yeah.
because, like, in general, like we've touched on so far, we know that grief is inconvenient
Mhm.
for society at large.
Yeah.
Why do you think in church communities that grief and really sitting with that discomfort is about as viewed as a lack of faith or a lack of trust
Yeah,
in
no, I
God's
think
greater
that's definitely a
plan?
big I think that's definitely a big thing. I think we have a lot of focus in the church on being positive, because
Mhm,
that's a good testimony, right? Like, if you can be positive and happy, like, that's proof that, like, Jesus is doing his job in your life. But I think one thing, especially for people who like myself, who are still Christian, um
mhm,
I think an important thing to remember with that is even though we have kind of this, like, you have to be positive thing all the time, there was
mhm.
a lot of lament in the scriptures. And
Yeah.
one thing that I went back to, there's a great book called Where Goodness Still Grows about
Mm,
different values within Christianity, where goodness is still very much there. Great book. But she talks about, the idea of lament. And we oftentimes, when we sing the Psalms, we focus
mhm,
more on the Psalms of positivity,
mm,
when really we need to, like, but there are just as many Psalms about lament.
mhm,
But we don't always focus on those. But those are like, when I was going through my grief, those Psalms were so powerful and so comforting for
mhm.
me, during that time. So I think recognizing both of those, that there is room for all the emotions, like, even, like, Jesus had the power to raise people from the dead. He raised Lazarus from the dead, but before he
Mhm,
even raised Lazarus from the dead, he took the time to grieve his friend. Like,
mhm.
there is so much room for grief, and I think it's such a powerful emotion that we often skip over for the sake of our testimony, or for the sake of, like, not feeling anger, but
Kate,
that righteous anger is so important.
there's so much there on that testimony
Yeah.
BS. Like, I had a friend who, ah, her she made a choice to leave her marriage,
Mhm.
which is a valid choice,
Yeah.
but I remember, like, instead of grieving what was lost, I remember her saying, "Well, like, at least one day I'll be able." She had an affair. They ended up
Yeah.
healing, getting back together, and instead of grieving what had happened, her viewpoint on it was, "At least we'll be able to be marriage pastors in the future and have this testimony."
Yeah.
And
The
they
tour
are,
tips over.
and
Yeah.
they've written books about it,
Oh, man.
like, where it just is, like, sitting with the uncomfortable nature of our
Mhm.
choices
Yeah.
and hard things in relationships and what that says about who we are as people. Like, all of it is skipped over in order to trauma dump and get butts in the seats
Yeah.
down the road, you know?
Yeah. No,
It's
in order to have
crazy.
a good testimony, like, and I think there's also an aspect of it too of, like, grief. I think there's an aspect of accountability to it
Mm,
too, because when you can't grieve and you just have to forgive and reconcile, and I'm not saying all churches teach this, but
yeah.
there you can't keep the person fully accountable. And I think
Well,
there's an
that's I
aspect of
think
power dynamic.
grief is admitting that it happened.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
I think a lot of people point to, like, "Oh, but God just forgave me." Like, I don't
Let's skip
I
a
don't
few
have like,
steps.
God has absolved me of everything,
Right.
like, I don't have to do that, but, like, the justice of God isn't just like, "Okay, boom, like, you're free, like, I've taken all the sins off of you." The justice of God is restorative justice, and
Yeah.
I think the important thing to remember is, like, especially when we get into Romans, like, God clearly hates abuse there. But so often
Right.
the scriptures are twisted to, like, for the benefit of the abusive person.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like in those circumstances where there's an abuser and a victim that there's no literally no like you were saying nuance or accountability or like grappling with the humanity of it all. It's just fast forward through it like you were saying like let's get out of this
Yeah,
situation.
it's uncomfortable, right? Like, I
Yep.
think going through that whole process requires, number 1, the safety to be able to process that grief,
Yep.
and depending on the situation, you might not feel safe. And
Mhm.
number 2, being able to go through the discomfort. Actually, number 2, having, like, the sense of self to be able to validate what happened to you,
Yeah.
and enough of safety to be able to validate what happened to you and process what happened. And number 3, being able to feel safe enough to go through those emotions of grief. And
Mm.
those are 3 big steps that have to happen to someone who has just experienced a lot of hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, I think another part of this, and this is added on from the original book, Soul Broken,
Mhm.
but I think one thing that really helped me, as I was going through ambiguous grief is such a powerful emotion. I think we just think of it as sadness.
Mhm.
Um, but really it's going through all the emotions. There is sorrow, there's love, there's fear, there's hope, there's anger, there's joy, and there's room for
Mhm.
all of those in that experience. And I
Mhm.
think for someone like me, who went through, like, that so much of the spiritual bypassing,
Yeah.
and especially, like, we throw purity culture in there, where, like, we're disconnecting from our bodies. Like,
Mhm.
there was a lot of real embodiment work that I had to do to be able to even access those emotions,
Mhm.
in my life, and I was able to do it through, like, somatic practices.
Mhm.
Like, if anyone's curious, there are various, like, music is such a powerful tool for this,
Mhm.
like grief meditations, you can find them on YouTube.
Mhm.
For the gr for, like, the music in particular, there's different, like, hertz,
Mhm.
like
Like binaural beats kind
yeah, like
of
binaural beats, that
vibes,
sort of thing, and that
but
can be a
for
really
like
powerful
kind of
way.
release.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you're working with a trauma therapist, which I highly suggest that you do if you're working through a grief, like, they might have access to, like, safe and sound protocol. That is
Mhm.
another really important thing to, like,
Mhm.
get your body to the state where it feels safe enough to process those emotions.
Mhm.
But another way that I was able to
I do have a safe and sound protocol connection if anyone needs
oh,
it.
yeah.
So just let me know in the let me know in the comments.
Yeah, very helpful.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I think another part is that I think grief really helps us get back to our identity.
Yeah.
And one way that we can access those emotions is getting in touch with our creativity.
Mhm.
Because interesting thing, and the Reiki like understanding of things, like the place where your emotions and your inner child, and your creativity live, and
Mhm.
all in the sacral area.
Mm.
They're all
Mhm.
in the same place. So, if you're having trouble
Mm.
accessing, like, the emotional parts, art can be a really
Mhm.
powerful way to both nurture your inner child,
Mhm.
and also get in touch with that playfulness and creativity again so that you can express those emotions.
Mhm.
So one really powerful way is neurographic art.
Mhm.
Um,
Is that using both hands or is this something different?
no, this is something different. So, basically,
Okay, tell me.
like, you could probably do a coloring book or that sort of thing, but this kinda, like,
Mhm.
allows your mind to, like, expand outside the box so it can really express the emotions. So, basically, you, like, do a scribble, and then all
Mhm.
the places where the lines, like, you can just let your hand flow, and all the
Mhm.
places where, like, the lines cross over each other, you, like, make them curve so that there's no
Mm.
sharp corners, and then you can
Okay.
kinda fill it in. And for those of you who are subscribed to my Substack, Quips and Confessionals, for
I'm
those of
looking
you on
this up.
Instagram, the link is in my bio. I'll I'll put a example of it in the newsletter that I'll send out after
I've
this.
been doing neurographic art my whole life, and I
Oh, you
never
have?
get how to read.
That's so funny.
For real. I
Yeah.
literally Googled this the other day. I'm not joking, and I did not get that result because I said, "What does it say about your brain if you make art like this?"
It means that you're good at processing your emotions.
And it didn't call it neurographic art, but it did tell me that it was like your brain trying to process.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna go on a
Yeah.
deep dive with that.
Yeah, it really looks like neurons if you get a chance to look at it.
That is fascinating.
Yeah. Um, so another thing I did was the artist's way. And there's a
Mhm.
bunch of different activities you could do in the artist's way. If you just want a simplified version,
Mhm.
doing like 3 pages of like a brain dump every
Yep.
morning did
Mhm.
so much to like unpack so much of the things that I had been experiencing during that time,
Mhm.
so much of the junk that was just like built up there.
Yep.
And also taking yourself on an artist date and just giving yourself that space to, like, rest and play,
Yeah, I love
was
that.
so important. And then one more thing, because we talked about, like, those feelings of, like, fear.
Mhm.
There is a thing called the daily practice. It comes from a book called Re-Regulated.
Ooh.
And I believe it's free on our website, but
Okay.
basically that she recommends this thing called the daily practice. You don't have to do it daily, but just journaling, and it's based off of fears and resentments. So you can say, I fear, I don't know, I fear dogs
Okay.
because
Don't come to my house.
yeah, because of this thing.
Yeah.
Or like I resent, I don't know, frogs because
Yes.
when I was
Yes.
4, like, my brother chased me with one.
That is the best thing I've ever heard to resent.
Yeah.
I resent
And those are just totally, like,
frogs.
silly
Yeah.
examples,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
like
No, but I get it. Yeah.
yeah,
That's fascinating. I feel like my grief, I'm just starting to understand that a lot of my grief shows up in sort of a foreboding panic
yeah,
where there's nothing exactly happening that is like dangerous. And
yeah.
it's different than just anxiety. It's like my entire body goes cold
Mm,
and it's like my chest gets really tight
yeah.
and it's just like
Like, waiting for the other shoe to drop kinda thing?
this deep panic of mine manifests as like a fear of being out of control.
Mm,
Like a big trigger for me is nausea. If I feel
yeah.
nauseous and like, oh my God, what if I throw up
Mhm.
in front of someone? It's like there's something there for me around the idea of losing control that also I think makes me shove down emotions that are
Yeah.
uncomfortable, you
Yeah,
know?
emotions can, I think we can distract ourselves so much, and I think one thing that helps me rationalize it, because it is
Mhm.
a scary thing, it feels like you're, like, on the edge of a cliff,
Mhm.
is like, "Okay, this emotion is going to happen, it's going to feel better
Mhm.
afterwards,
Mhm.
but it's going to last probably 90 seconds, and if I can get
Yes.
through those 90 seconds, then it's going like, things will be processed and things
Yeah.
will be better."
Yeah. There's a lot there around the fear of losing control, like
Yeah.
preventing grief from manifesting, I think,
Yeah, no, for
especially
sure.
for
There's a lot
women.
of fear
Yeah.
involved in grief, and
Mhm.
I found that the daily practice and going through
I'm
that
gonna try that. I'm gonna try that. That
yeah,
really resonates with me.
yeah, and then there's a free, like, PDF on our website, it's called Re-Regulated, the book, and there's a free PDF on our website, I'll put it in the
Looking
show
right
notes for those of
now.
you who are subscribed to Substack, um, but so after you write down those fears and resentments, you basically, like, tear them up and give them
Mhm.
to, like, a higher power. It doesn't have to be God.
Love.
and
Mhm.
you write down, I give these fears and resentments and give them up to the universe, and kind of do like a version of like of that. So it's kind of a release
Okay.
thing. And then you tear them all up and do whatever you want, dunk them in water, burn them, like keep them in a box, whatever you want to do.
Sure.
And this is super helpful.
I
Um,
love that. Yeah.
yeah. Um, yeah, and part of that creativity, just getting in touch with your playfulness.
Mhm.
So things that like writing down what did little you love to do? Because I think
Mhm.
grief is such a powerful opportunity to connect with that identity formation and this new
Mhm.
identity that we are
Yep.
often going into. Because grief is like it tears away a lot of the stuff that we've built up over the years,
Mhm.
and really brings us to our identity and a newer version of ourselves. Um,
Yeah, that's
and
that's a lot of the work that I do in my, like, cohorts,
oh, cool.
is we talk through all of, like, who was little you?
Yeah,
And how have you been surviving, and what's the contrast there,
yeah.
you know? And there is so much grief to seeing how much we've changed in order to survive.
Yeah, and just making that
Yeah.
little you feel safe, like, one thing that my trauma therapist suggests I do is just buy my little self a present. So I have, like,
Mhm.
a fairy shelf
Love
of,
it.
like, these little fairy figurines that I got my younger self,
Mhm. Mhm.
and it can just be, like, a coloring book off of, like,
Yeah.
Amazon. Like,
Yes.
it doesn't have to be anything fancy, but, like, even writing down a list of, like, and this is an important part of moving to that internal hope of, like, what can you
Yeah.
do to
Yep.
reconnect? Because you can't change the other person, but you can pick up a hobby. Like,
Yeah.
what did little you love to do? Like, did little you love to write? Did little you love to ride bikes? Did little you love to go on their scooters around the neighborhood, walk in the woods? Like, what did little
Mhm.
you love to do? And that's an
Yeah.
important part of grounding your identity, especially as you're going through this grief so that you can validate yourself to get through it.
Yes. Yes. My thing is stuffies. I buy a lot of stuffies.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and then, we talked about, like, ambiguous grief is not it's tricky because there's no, like, funeral to mark the end of things.
Mhm.
So marking the end with a grief ritual.
Yeah.
So things like a letter of release,
Mhm.
and like, the way that she describes it in the book in Soul Broken, it's a faux funeral, like
Oh,
faux
love it. Yes,
funeral.
love it. Uh-huh.
So you can do a letter of release where you say goodbye. And that was an important part of my grief journey.
Mhm.
Also poetry. Like poetry was
Mhm.
a really important part of getting in touch with that creativity. Um, Making a eulogy for them,
Mhm.
co-grieving who has a similar loss. Maybe you have a friend who's also getting a divorce,
Mhm.
or going through chronic illness or whatever. Whatever it is. Like co-grieving, or you can even create your own ceremony, like a
Yeah.
lantern releasing ceremony. One thing that I did is
Mhm.
a, I took, like, a piece of paper and I wrote,
Mhm.
like, the end of, that song and The Fox and the Hound.
Oh,
You
no,
know the one that I'm
Kate.
talking about.
No.
Yeah.
I literally cannot speak about that movie. I cannot speak about it.
Yeah, we'll skip
I know
over
what
it,
you're talking
but
about.
we all
Skip
know the
it.
song.
Yes.
And it'll make me tear up just thinking about it. Whew.
No. I hate it. I mean, I love it, and I
No,
hate
I
it.
love it too, but even thinking about it like you, like, it makes me start tearing up.
Yes.
Um,
This is my
um
kiddo.
oh, hey. Yeah, it makes me start tearing up, but writing the end of that song, and I folded it up into a little boat,
Oh,
and then I put it on the lake and, like, watched it go towards the sunset.
oh my god.
Yeah.
That's so sweet.
Yeah,
Hold
it's
on.
just, like, things like that, like, it was almost like a little Viking funeral, like, just a ritual
Oh,
like that, and then,
for
like
Fox and the Hound, Viking funeral.
yeah,
Okay,
and
Fox
then
and the Hound song lyrics.
oh
I don't need to
gosh.
look that up. Is it Best of Friends? No, it's Goodbye May Seem Forever.
Yeah.
Hold
And it
on.
was just me on the edge of the lake listening to that song over and over again.
Scoot babes. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, 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 wow,
And
wow.
just
I'm not
encompassing
reading
those
it.
emotions because I knew that song would make me cry.
Oh, that one, and I don't know, did you ever see the 1994 Lassie?
No, I skipped that one.
Continue to skip. It's a good movie, but I remember, like, scream sobbing in the theater.
Yeah.
Like, it's rough. Anything with dogs,
Yeah. No, Marley and
can't do
Me
it.
was the one that, like, my generation watched.
Yeah, can't. Okay, sorry, back on track.
Yeah, so that basically marking the end with a grief ritual. And I think the important thing about the grief ritual and in grief in general is like I've done the grief ritual, but like the grief the grief is always going to be there.
Yeah.
But you create your life around it. I saw a really good
Mm,
graphic that described it really well. It's like you have a jar, and at first, like the grief fills up the whole jar,
mm,
and then as time goes on, like the grief doesn't always get smaller. Like the jar
mhm,
just expands to hold it.
mm. Yeah, yeah.
So it will take time, even past the
Yeah,
ritual.
I know that, like, in trauma work, um, like, they show the thing I know there's even an Instagram reel going around right now where it's, like, a glass filled with Coke,
Yeah.
and the guy turns the water on and how long it actually takes for the Coke to get rinsed out and it just to be
Mhm.
the water. That,
Yeah.
like, that's I feel like that's similar with grief as it is with trauma,
Yeah.
that it takes time to work it through.
Yeah. No, it
Yeah.
100%, and, like, even through the body, like,
Mhm.
grief is so exhausting. Like, going
Mhm.
through the process of grief and that's why rest is so important. Like, you'll be,
Mhm.
like you'll wanna go back to your, like, old life, like, "Oh, I wanna go, go, go. I wanna do all these things," but your body is
Mhm.
like, "We need a rest. We need to process this."
Mhm.
And it's so hard in, like, our busy, busy world to take that time to rest and process, but it's so important
Yep.
for our bodies, like,
Mhm.
it really affects us physically, and affects so many aspects of our lives. It's so important to take that time to rest during that time.
For sure.
Yeah, but it's also really rewarding, I found, like, just
Mhm.
like, the person that I was before grief and the person that I was after are 2 completely different people, and the person that I
Mhm.
am now is more in touch with their creativity.
Mhm.
Like, they feel more of the person that their true self,
Mhm.
um, than they were before. They've gone through a lot of different things, so it can be really, like it can be a really powerful transformation in a positive way, even though it hurts going through it.
I wonder if you relate to this. I know we're needing to close up,
Yeah.
but I feel like sometimes I don't register something as grief until hindsight.
Oh, yeah.
I like a big, especially ambiguous grief where it's more
Mhm.
subtle and
Yeah.
you don't have an understanding. Like for me, my like biggest example of that is getting diagnosed in the fall of 2024. And then
Mhm.
like a year later, me kind of being like, what has felt so hard this year? Like, what's changed? And really sitting with that and being like, oh, it's not grief that I have autism and ADHD. It's grief of my childhood
Yeah.
and like being misunderstood and like
Mhm.
having a new set of glasses on to rethink through everything. And I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of times we move through life shaming ourselves for needing rest.
Mhm.
And then we get to the point a year or what, however far down the road, and you realize, oh, I was experiencing true grief at that time and I
Yeah.
just didn't recognize it as such, you know?
No, that's 100%. And it's funny that you mentioned that because we were talking about the safety before,
Mhm.
in the Reiki,
Mhm.
like that shame and guilt and fear, they all live in the
Mhm.
same place, the root chakra is our sense of safety. So it is
Mm.
very tied up in that. So like until like we can really and I think grief is the process of working through that shame as well. Um but until we can start processing that, it's often harder for us to access those emotions of grief,
Yeah,
um, and really dive into them because we need to
for
have
sure.
that sense of safety and, um, like, grow through that movement from shame, like, those shame feelings as well.
Yeah. I see Emily asked, how long is it taking you to get to that side of the transformation for you? I mean, I'm in it, Emily.
Yeah. We're still
I
both in it.
yeah, I mean, I think that there's always something to grieve, something new to grieve. I think there has been healing from certain types of grief in my life, and I think I don't want to speak for Kate, but like
Yeah.
I think it is like a treadmill kind of where it just is like there's always something to understand more about our life experiences. And I feel like our culture is so before and after results driven that grief really challenges that because it's a lifelong process
Yeah.
in my opinion. But
Yeah. I will
do you
say,
have any
like,
thoughts?
probably the biggest transformation that I noticed from the point that I started grieving was,
Hmm.
like, and I wanna preface this by saying, like, I've been going through, like, deconstruction grief, like, various forms of therapy, like, for at least 10 years before that. So,
Yeah.
like, it took a long time to even get to this point where I realized that I need to grieve in this strange person in my life. Um, but it took, like, a good year when I noticed the biggest transformation in probably at least 2 years
Hmm.
before I felt like a lot of the grief had been processed, and I'm still processing that grief, now
Yeah.
as well. So, there is definitely, like, it never ends, but it's not like, "You're transformed, this stops now." Like, it is
Right.
an
Right.
ongoing process.
I wonder too if Emily's question, hopefully, hopefully you guys can't hear my kids yelling at each other, but whatever, if you can. I think that there's something to be said about the paradigm shift of switching from the idea that everything's your fault to
Yeah.
seeing your experience with compassion.
Yeah.
I would say that that is a big piece of the puzzle is zooming out to move out of that personal growth. Just I need to be better, I need to be better, I need to be better,
Yeah.
externalized hope zone. There is something to the shift that your body is really wise
Yeah.
and your body has deep knowing. Like that shift alone, I will say, has made living in my own body much safer.
Yeah.
So that I mean, that's where I would start is like multiplying the compassion for yourself and your life experiences and see where that gets you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so important because I think the transformation just didn't come from, like, this magical transformation of, like, I went through all these steps and, like, "Yay, I'm healed." Like,
Yes.
it really like, the reason why the transformation happened in my life is because the first time in my life, like, I was taking the time to listen to my body because your body is so
Mm,
wise, and your
mhm,
body is going to tell you where that grief is living inside your body
mhm,
um, when you get in touch with it. And the reason why those transformations happen is because I started listening to my body for the first time. And by listening to
mhm,
that body my body, like, the rewards were great for that because it made me, like, rest for the first time enough to give myself the white space to be able to both process the grief,
mhm.
and do that get in touch with the person that I would call my true self, who's this creative
Mm.
person instead of this caretaker person.
I think there's something to what you just said, and again, I know we need to wrap up. This is the last thing I'm gonna say, then
Yeah.
we can do our, exercise thing at the end. Um, I think there is really something to what you just said about how us not being believed, our voices not being believed, like we
Yeah.
talked about earlier, that we do the same thing to our own bodies,
Yeah.
where we silence our own bodies because it feels inconvenient. We don't want to
Mhm.
rest. We don't want to have to stop. We don't want to have to listen.
Yeah.
It's
We don't wanna
inconvenient.
cry
And
right
so we
now.
don't. We don't want to cry right now. We don't have time. Hustle culture. And I think even just sitting with your hand on your heart and saying,
Mhm.
I believe you is like a huge mind blowing first step
Yeah.
for so many of us that like being believed is really rare. And I think
Yeah.
telling yourself that you believe the messages that your body is sending to you is a great first step.
Yeah. It's so powerful, it's so validating, and such an important part of getting through that ambiguous grief.
Yep.
So yeah, we want to do a meditation at the end, which is an ambiguous grief meditation. So I'll preface this. You are in full control of the situation if you choose to participate. We are going to be delving into some grief emotions. So if like things feel intense, that's not the purpose of this, but
Mhm.
people have various levels of capacity. So if you need to open your eyes, like take a step back, totally understand. Um, yeah. So do we want to dive into it?
I'm ready.
All right. So first, for those of you at home, place your feet on the floor. Imagine roots growing from the base of your spine and into the ground. Place your hands over your heart. You can stack them or place them side by side. Remember, we're not, um, you are fully in control of this experience. And we're not trying to get rid of the grief here. We're trying to feel it so that we can move through it. And as you have your hands over your heart, notice any sensations that you're feeling. And remember that you're fully in control of this, so you can step back at any time. Take a couple of deep breaths here and let the shoulders soften. Feel any sensation beneath your hands. Is your heart heavy? Is it tense? Is it gentle? Do you feel an aching? And as you're sitting here, imagine a flower blooming from the center of your heart. What type of flower is it? Is it a lotus? Is it a daisy? Is it a rose? Notice the color and the texture of the flower. What is the weight of the flower? And imagine those petals expanding from your heart. Now, as those petals expand, bring your attention to what you are grieving or who you're grieving. This can be a person, a community, a faith, an old version of you, or maybe even a younger you. It can be anything that you want. And as you hold your hands over this heart space, shrinking the person, the place, or the thing, and place them in the center of that flower. And notice what feelings arise when you think of this person. And there's no right emotion to have here as you're closing your eyes. You may feel love. You may feel gratitude. You may feel anger. You may feel sadness. You may feel relief or longing, or you might feel multiple emotions at once. Whatever you're feeling right now is okay. And as you direct your emotions towards your heart and that attention towards your heart, you might imagine offering this person whatever feels true for you today. It could be that anger that you have. It could be that sadness of the relationship that you wanted to have. It could be a feeling, a wish, a boundary, a question, or just your attention. And if there are any words left unsaid, you can share them now. And they might be words of love, they might be grief, they might be anger, They might be confusion. They might be gratitude, disappointment, forgiveness, or something else. Allow yourself to speak honestly during this time. And if it feels safe for you, imagine a golden light of protection covering your heart space, this golden light of safety and love for yourself. And if it feels safe, you can extend that love to the other person. And if it feels safe, you might reflect on what this person, place, or experience meant to you. You might notice moments of gratitude, love, learning, growth, or meaning, or you may not, and that's okay. And in this moment, if it feels supportive, you may also wish them peace. And if not, you can wish that peace for yourself or for both of you. And as you hold them there in that glowing ball of light, of protection and safety and love, imagine them becoming smaller and smaller until they become a tiny seed resting in the center of your heart. And the seed does not represent carrying the pain forever, the pain of that loss. It represents carrying the memory, the meaning, the love, the lessons, the boundaries, the wisdom that remains with you. Now turn your attention to the base of your spine again and re-stretch those roots from the base of your spine into the soil so you're fully grounded into the earth in this moment. And take a deep breath. Wiggle your toes. Turn into your body. Get in touch in how you feel. And in this moment, honor any emotions that might be coming up and extend that same kindness to yourself, that same compassion and appreciation. And when you're ready, open your eyes.
That was good.
Oh, I'm glad.
That was good, and I, definitely, like, anger city.
Yeah, no, that's so important in process.
Anger city. I'm gonna
Mhm.
be thinking about some things tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Well, my friend, this was amazing.
Yeah, thank you
Any
guys so much.
parting words before we sign off?
Yeah. Um, I guess I'll just say, like, follow both of us. Um,
Mhm.
Lauren, you're at The Kindred Space. I'm
Yep.
at Kate Johnson Writes on all platforms.
Yep.
You had your cohort that came out recently. If you'd like to
Yep.
talk about that for a second.
So I won't have any more in 2026, but I do a small group cohort where we talk through all of these things together and really process little us and how
Mhm.
to align who we were as little kids. How do we align that with who we are now in our, middle stage of life? And a lot of ambiguous grief work, but I also work one to one with clients. So you can always hop into my DMs and chat about how we could work together. But I'm here and I love talking about this work. And yeah, I'm here with you guys in the middle of it. I don't have anything figured out, just kind of doing the
Mhm.
work with you. So
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on all platforms at Kate Johnson Writes, and I have a Substack. For those of you interested, I'll be sending out a recording of this with some show notes afterwards. If you want to subscribe, it's at Quips and Confessionals on Substack. For those of you on Instagram, the link is in my bio.
awesome. All
Yeah.
right, my friends, we will see you next time.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
All right, bye bye.